This is Michael Bloomberg. He's one of the richest people in the entire world. In fact, he's so rich, he's not just on the Forbes 100 list, he's on the Forbes 20 list, which means there's only 20 other Americans that are richer than he is. He got rich by starting his company, Bloomberg LP, in 1981 and providing services to Wall Street in the form of information all over the world. You might know them from the ubiquitous Bloomberg terminal. If you walk into one of your financial advisor's office, you'll see a terminal there that has a lot of information on it and people punching away little codes at it. Well, Mr. Bloomberg charges a huge amount of money and makes huge margins from these terminals. And over the last 40 years, he's become very, 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 very rich. But the most important thing is that there's a lesson to be learned from his business success. And it's probably not something that people are really thinking about. So that's why we're going to talk about it for a second. Since the early 80s or so, there's been an explosion in what I would call the markets. Everybody wants to invest. Everybody wants to take their money and put it into stocks, put it into bonds, instead of just putting it into a bank account. And people are forgetting that before a few decades ago, that's all people did. Say you had a bakery, in 1980, or say you had a auto mechanic shop, or whatever was going on then. There wasn't a lot of fancy finance stuff going on. You kind of had money for your business, and you put it in a bank, and it got some interest, and that was about it. And that's the way the world really worked until about 40 years ago. But since then, we've seen an explosion in what I call investing. People are told, hey, you shouldn't be having your money in cash. You should lend it out in all these other different ways. So you're not getting 5% in the bank, you're getting 10% a year or whatever. And what's gone on since then is that, yes, there's been some fortunes made through the stock market, through hedge funds, through all these other fancy instruments designed to make more money from your money. But there's also been a huge amount of disappointment. There's been a crash in 2000. There's been a crash in 2008. There was just a COVID crash. And each time this whittles away investors' returns and it really doesn't work out for people. And we've also seen too, even the biggest money, like hedge funds, some of these guys have fortunes that are unbelievable. Even their returns are going down. And if they ever get involved in a real financial calamity, some of them will go bust again, just like we saw in Melvin Capital. But you know who wins in this whole time? Mike Bloomberg. And because he has a real business that generates money almost all the time. And what we can learn from this is that 30 or 40 years ago, the reality is that you had a lot of people thinking they were going to get rich in the markets. But the reality is they haven't. And Mike Bloomberg's gotten rich selling them services. So the most important thing to understand is that sometimes if you're looking for a great business opportunity, it's not necessarily following the crowd. You maybe want to just find a group of people that think they're going to get rich in something and sell them services to help them think they're going to get rich. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of times you'll have less competition. And we know 30 or 40 years ago, some of the people involved in these markets made these fortunes. But their edges and their businesses have been wilted away, while Mike Bloomberg's businesses are still really, really fantastic. So that's the most important thing. Maybe find a group of suckers who says, yeah, this is the way I'm going to get rich. And don't follow them. Sell them services. Sell them ideas. Sell them dreams. Sell them hopes. Because you'll, in the long run, turn out a lot better than they are. And let's keep in mind, the largest hedge fund fortunes are still nothing compared to Mike Bloomberg's. In fact, his fortune is 3 times the size of the next largest hedge fund fortune. So keep that in mind when you're going back into something and you're coming up with a business idea. That you always got to think outside of the box. Thanks.